Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business legends who help it grow. Chris Hearn is with us. Give us perspective from the C-suite and what's going on. Chris, I imagine when you did your 2020 budget, you had a huge income statement item for PPP fees.
Right, because I have such powers of prognostication. No, nobody knew what PPP was, I think, before March.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not quite.
It's interesting. I'll throw these at you. I haven't fact-checked this. SBA Administrator Carranza says that 5.2 million loans to small business has helped save an estimated 51 million jobs. That was followed up by Chase President Jamie Dimon, who said 35 million. Those numbers seem right to you?
The 50-some million seems a little high to me. I think, didn't we only lose like 40 million jobs?
I don't know. Stats just...
Yeah, they're astronomical numbers regardless. But I know we've gotten a lot of jobs back over May, June, and July. And I think we're headed in the right direction, so that's positive.
No, I agree with you. We've talked, there's issues with the program, but if we waited 2 or 3 months to roll out PPP, the numbers would be a lot more bleak than they are. Shout out to Bank of California. They saved, let's see, it's pretty cool here. 56,000 jobs. They did almost 3,000 loans. Almost $500 million. So congratulations. If you send me those, I'll be happy to announce them. I know that we're getting a lot of press releases. So I think it's important to highlight the good news that sometimes gets buried underneath the bad news in the media.
Yep, I agree.
Let's go to the poll questions. One of the things we want to ask Chris about is how he is managing his employees. And are you working remotely or both?
Are you asking me too, Bob?
Yeah. What are you guys doing?
We already had probably 50-60% of our employees working remote prior to the pandemic. So we always viewed of hiring the right person irrespective of where they might reside. So that's actually benefited us quite a bit. Right now, we probably have 20-25% of our team in our offices. Everybody else is remote, including myself at the moment. I go to the office maybe once or twice a week to stop in.
50% work remotely. And if you add the combination, it's almost 2/3. So,
yep.
That's very impressive. Hey, Chris, 2 questions on this. Number one, how do you manage? What do you recommend for managers to be to help their employees, but more importantly, what is your best practice? What is your recommendation for an employee who's out there? Maybe they feel they're on an island, and what's the best way for them to communicate with staff?
Well, I think this whole idea of work from remote, if this is going to become the new norm, I mean, I think we are losing something out of all this, which is, yes, there's the water. Yeah, exactly. It's culture. It's water cooler conversations, one thing, but how do you bring up that younger employee who could look over the shoulder of a more experienced employee and see exactly how you do things? Culture is definitely a little more challenging to get across on a Zoom call or a conference call or an email, but people are adapting. I think it's interesting that. There's always the fear of middle and senior management sometimes that the employees are going to not really do what they need to do, and yet it looks like the statistics show that people are actually working longer hours. They're kind of blurring.
And they're just as efficient, right?
Yeah, they're blurring the lines between personal and business, which maybe isn't what the employee wants, but some leadership probably thinks that's not a bad thing. I just think communication is key, and making sure you're getting properly updated about what employees.
One of the common themes I talk to people. One of the big frustrations is IT support. What do you do to help your people? We're underwriters, we're closers, we're not IT specialists. How do you help your people with that?
Well, we have a great IT support, and they're pretty much on call for us all the time, and they jump on things right away, and I think that's really important. Um, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think most of our folks are pretty self-sufficient. Anytime somebody needs something, we immediately order it and send it to them wherever they might be. Again, this was part of our culture before the pandemic, so it's not as much of a shock to us. In fact, I'm onboarding an employee today, well, technically tomorrow, and that was one of the questions is, okay, what kind of computer do you want? Do you want a dual monitor setup? Can we ship it to you here? When do you want to receive it? Here's some other things that we think you might want to have in your arsenal. So it's very, very common.
You cut them a check. Do you send them the equipment, or are they on their own?
We send them the equipment, but it's pretty much plug and play. I mean, most of us are using, not too many people I don't think have those, towers anymore. If you don't have a laptop, we have these like microprocessors that are, half the size of a shoebox. I mean, that's generally
towers.
Yeah, you remember towers, Bob. Some
I
people
remember something a little bigger than towers, but
it'll be the after show. We'll explain what a computer tower is. Yeah.
What I do, I have 2 meetings a day. We have a meeting first thing in the morning. We have a meeting at 2:00 in the afternoon. I make it a point. I don't know what you do. I make it a point to not email my staff after 5:00. I just feel that's important. How do you feel about that?
I email my staff after. I don't necessarily. Mostly, one of my emails after 5:00 are sort of wrap up emails. What we accomplished in the day, maybe motivational emails. But yeah, I don't generally ask them to do stuff necessarily in the evenings. But a lot of my staff, they also, this has allowed them to work hours that sort of are more befitting of them.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we have some folks that start a little late and go late, and that's okay. I'm more concerned about the outcome as opposed to necessarily the hours.
Yeah, the quality as opposed to the quantity.
Yep. Yeah. But that's an adjustment for a lot of folks, especially if you're more corporate. That's difficult,
Now, what I do is I do cheat, and what I mean by that is I have a app called Boomerang, so I can type up an email and then I can choose to send it first thing in the morning. So I will do that. But I try to respect the employees and not harass them too much. Joseph may disagree, but hey, that's his problem.
I also check in with them usually at least once a day, just sort of on a personal level, like how you doing? Because this obviously everybody knows. This pandemic has also stressed people's mental health a little bit. People are feeling more alone these days, so I think it's important to just reach out to them on a human level too, and make sure they're engaged and they're doing well and they're healthy.
Do you have a mentoring system? For example, if you're on your new employee that you're onboarding today, are you going to assign them a mentor? What are you going to do with that?
Well, in his case, he'll be more senior management, so I'm his mentor. But
well, I mean, that's important.
Yeah, but I think that's what supervisors are supposed to do. So we while we have a fairly flat organizational chart, everybody does report to someone, and everybody's talked about, making sure they're engaging correctly. And frankly, some of this just happened naturally through the chaos of PPP. We just came together more as a team anyway. I mean, I think we were able to put months, if not years, under our belt in terms of our experience together. So I think that helped a lot.
We're purposely not discussing PPP today, other than everyone's read the news that they're deep in negotiation. But do you see it being resolved? Now, the consensus is it will be resolved. Just everyone's staking out their position. I've gone on record, Chris, is saying it'll be resolved by this weekend. I'm on a bad streak on predictions, so I'm out of the prediction business. John Riosty and Lance say after Labor Day. So what do you think about that?
I don't think it'll be resolved by this weekend, but how about I punt to say middle of next week? I just think the longer this goes,
all right.
Yeah, I think the longer this goes, I think the more pressure will be put on the politicians in D.C. I mean, it is just, I couldn't imagine if this thing goes past Labor Day, there's going to be businesses, as we've talked about before, that never come back, never recover from this. It's just going to be really bad. And this is an election year, so I just think the stars are aligning for something to happen.
Well, I would not want to be a congressperson and come back for the town hall and have to meet 7 angry restaurant owners in Southern California and why their business is closed and everyone else is open.
That's right.
It was interesting. The SBA administrator is telegraphing something here, and this is another one of my bad guesses, but she says that there's $135 billion with the B left over in the PPP fund. And so I definitely see that being either PPP extended or reprogrammed somewhere else. But that money will end up in Main Street at some point in time, I believe.
Yes.
Number three, and this is assuming PPP is finished, and we know actually the traditional PPP may be extended, and then there's other iterations which says if your revenues drop 30% or 50%. But as we move on and as we focus on, I talked about the budget earlier, as we focus on the balance in 2020, what product will you be looking at? And interesting response, 3/4 say 7A, Chris.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, 7A is the workhorse of SBA
Right.
in terms of working capital. So, and I think that need is going to predominate. So I'm not shocked by that. I'm a little shocked that 504 is as low as it is.
So am I.
Yeah, particularly given how attractive that product is right now. Cap lines, wow, nobody. Express is pretty low, and BNI seems pretty low, but that might be more of a...
I'm a huge fan of cap lines. I think I stole this from you, Chris. There's riches and niches. Cap line is definitely a niche lending product.
Yes.
Not a lot of lenders are doing it. I would seriously take a look at that. And I'm glad to see USDA had a couple of votes on there on the board. I think that's a great program. Also, USDA, we haven't covered it that much, but they have some stimulus provisions as well. Yep. So do you know what they are offhand? I'm not that.
They've got a I think it's called the CARES BNI program, which is much more expansive than a normal BNI, and it actually allows for some working capital proceeds. There's a few lenders out there that are really mopping up with that one. So people might want to look into it.
Well, the big advantage to USDA is you do not have that secondary market tax over 110. If you sell it for 113, you get the entire 13-point premium. That's also, you can comfortably go to $10 million. And now it is more difficult. As I've said, 7A is more of a factory type of product.
That's right.
USDA, you're building the car from the tires up, so it's a little bit more labor intensive, but it's perfect. Number one is hospitality. It's perfect for that borrower who you have a nice relationship with, and they may have that 7A loan out in rural America, out in Texas, where I know you're going to be next week, Chris, and then they want to do another hospitality, and they can do it through USDA. Also, USDA now will guarantee construction. Okay, so that's very good. Let's see. Next week, we're going to be focusing on, we do have a question. Chris asked a question, not this Chris, another question. Yeah, we covered those two. How is the payroll tax relief different from Bush's? I didn't think these taxes had to be paid back. Do we have enough information on that, or is that still in the negotiation, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's still a negotiation. And I actually saw that the president talked about if he's reelected that he's going to push to get permanent the payroll taxes wiped out. So I think it's too early to tell at this stage.
Now,
and we don't even know if those executive orders are going to stand just yet.
Right. And well, obviously they'll be litigated. But are they talking about, obviously they're talking about the payroll taxes from the employee. What about for the employer? Are those also waived, or they're,
I haven't seen anything. Yeah, I don't know.
I was hoping.
You're hoping I would have some insight? No, not on that.
No, I don't care about your insight. I was hoping to have them waived.
Oh, yeah. Well, but if they do, I think it's only going to be for folks making under $100,000 a year. So that would be something.
Which makes sense. We have our webinar next week on 159. We're going to update that through all the PPP packaging. That's a hot point on the Inspector General. Obviously, it's been buried with all the other news. So we'll be doing that. And then we're going to do our famous calculating cash flow the SBA way. Chris, we're going to miss you next week, but you have a safe journey to Texas.
Thank you.
And keep plugging away, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.